Warning: the opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who, without payment or coercion, chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, everyone. I am Rick the Ninja on Red Herring Radio, joined in studio with my fellow co-host Wally, Danger Walberg, and our engineer, the Natrix. And here's our host, B-Dizzle.
Thank you, Ninja, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Red Herring Radio, our inaugural podcast. Tonight, we are going to be discussing many things, from UFO to alien life. The situation happening in Ukraine. Just today I heard that Russia has invaded the Ukraine, yet Russia will not admit to this. So we'll discuss that a little bit. And in our second segment, we'll get into some entertainment news. We'll touch on ISIS and the black-eyed kids. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this phenomena, but I found it interesting. So yeah, we'll talk about that and discuss that a little bit. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to go around the studio here, talk to everybody in the studio one-on-one and introduce them, get to know them a little bit. So first, I am joined tonight by my co-host and close friend, Wally Danger Walberg. Wally, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Dizzle. Thanks.
How's your week been, man? How you been doing?
It's the huge.
Next, I'm joined by my next co-host here, Rick the Ninja. Ninja, how you doing tonight, bud?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And lastly, I would like to thank our good friend, the Natrix, for being here with us. He is our resident internet guy and engineer. And Nate, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, hello.
So let's get right into it. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on over in Russia and the Ukraine, basically the situation that's going on over there. Now, this all developed and started by a section of the Ukraine wanted to secede from the Ukraine and become their own little independent thing going on. That's what they wanted. And they voted for it, and they did it. They broke away, and they started basically a separatist movement from the Ukraine, and they are being supported by Russia. And it's a lot of speculation whether or not it's a very open support or if it's more of a under-the-table, behind-the-curtain type support.
All right, so just to give me a little clarity, because I guess I could be educated better in world news. This kind of sounds like, are we dealing with a Ukraine civil war that's being backed by Russia?
One side is being backed by Russia, yes.
Okay.
And it just today in the news, I saw that it is developed that it appears that Russia is openly invading the Ukraine, so to speak. There's Russian troops that have been seen with satellite imagery and things of that nature. So they won't admit that they're invading. I don't think they ever would. And that makes sense to one degree, but pretty much the whole world sees this as an invasion. Even the Ukraine, their government has reinstated the draft there because of this. So I wanted to get your guys' opinions on this and what you think, and we'll go to a news article here in a minute, but I wanted to get your guys' opinions on what you think, because this is a big deal. We have a major superpower, Russia, invading another. Well, I wouldn't call Ukraine a superpower, but we have Russia invading another country
Well, the major suspense in this conflict is that the U.S. has decided to offer support for the Ukraine. Ukraine is applying for NATO membership. If NATO accepts Ukraine and Russia withdraws from the NATO organization in response to sanctions for its aggressions, there would then be 35 countries pledged militarily to the defense of Ukraine. So the question is if that happens, then we suddenly have 35 countries involved in military action around the globe.
Well, and wouldn't that be a world war?
That certainly sounds like it to me. I think when you have 35 nations.
That's why I wanted to talk about it tonight, because it is a very important thing for people to be talking about, because this has the potential to explode like a powder keg in the faces of everyone. And I've said it before, and I maintain it, that I'm really not worried about other countries attacking us, conventionally. Like, obviously we were shown 9/11. If you want to subscribe to the notion that it was terrorists that did that, okay. Well, going by that, then we can say that America can be attacked, but that's not a conventional attack. So I'm not worried about that. It would take the rest of the world to gang up on us, to beat us conventionally. The planes in our military, I don't even think the rest of the world has the amount of planes. If you can combine the combined air force of the world, I don't even think it touches ours. I can't say that for a fact. Nate, could you try to find out for those figures of the world's air forces compared to ours? And we'll take a look at that real quick. But it's an important thing for us to talk about, because eventually we as Americans are going to be involved in this, if we're not already. And I would say probably covertly we are involved in this for sure somehow.
I think history shows that whenever there is a conflict going on around the world that could eventually involve the United States government has taken a proactive interest in getting involved in it. I mean, whether or not there's necessarily like shadow or negative connotations to that is up to the person interpreting it, but when we're talking, we live in a global society now. So when things happen in other countries, they affect everyone around the world. So of course our government is gonna take a step and get involved. The level of involvement is what will change.
Right. Okay. So we have a website up here now. It's nationmaster.com. We'll have a link in the description below. But it has just Russian versus the United States military stats. Russia ranked first in combat. But on this website, it says Russia has 1,900 combat aircraft, opposed to the 3,318 combat aircraft the United States have. That's 75% more than Russia. Russia has 1,655 attack helicopters. We have 6,417. That's 4 times more than Russia. Main battle tanks. Now, this is something I knew that I read somewhere else, that Russia had more tanks than us. But I don't see that as being really pertinent in that kind of fight.
Because it would be more difficult to transport that many tanks to actually attack mainland United States.
Well, exactly. So this site says that Russia has 22,710 main battle tanks, opposed to our 8,000.
What that is significant is if Russia goes into World War, they have a lot of land power there in Europe.
Yeah, in that mainland Asia and Europe, yeah. They do, but we wouldn't have to really worry about them over here unless we start exchanging nuclear weapons, which I just don't think that's ever going to happen. Anyway, that's another topic. Continuing on here, we have some more stats here from the same website, Nation Master. Aircraft carriers, Russia has 1. They have 1 aircraft carrier. The United States has 19 aircraft carriers. That seems like much. I don't think we have that many.
No, We do. And if I'm not mistaken, we have more aircraft carriers than every other nation combined.
That's a fact. I do believe that's a fact. I remember reading that somewhere for sure.
If I'm not mistaken, China has somewhere between 3 to 5, and they're like number 2.
Yeah, you're gonna be okay.
Bombers. Russia has 195 bombers, and we have 171. Combat aircraft, we already went over that. Russia 1,900 compared to our 3,318. Fighters, Russia has 1,264 opposed to our 3,043. So our Air Force just blows theirs out of the water. I can't see any or many Air Forces around the world being even better than Russia's.
The other major power is then where China falls on its involvement if it goes any higher, if China chooses to take a side. And in reality, that makes China kind of draw a comparison to Russia's position in World War II, how it kind of was off to the side of Europe, the great, bear. This would be China. It could very well decide which side has the upper hand by, declaring its allegiance one way or the other.
So we're going to check out this video on ABC News pertaining to the Russian accused of launching a full-scale invasion of the Ukraine.
The other major development overseas, Russia accused of launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Ukraine government and NATO officials saying Russian tanks and troops have moved across the southeastern border. Today, President Obama saying Russia can no longer hide the fact that it is actively supporting Russian separatists in that country. Here's ABC's Hamish McDonald.
Plumes of smoke as shells rain down. Ukraine's leaders are clear tonight. This is a Russian invasion.
Russian military boats are on Ukrainian ground.
Ukrainian forces today lost control of a border town, and NATO says at least 1,000 Russian soldiers are inside the country, fighting alongside and supporting pro-Russian separatists. But today the Kremlin was in full denial mode. This satellite imagery, though, is hard to dispute. NATO claims it shows Russian artillery and troops moving inside Ukraine. What's clear is that there is now a war in Europe. It has escalated far beyond those fiery protests we witnessed on the streets of Kiev earlier this year.
What happens here is they light a Molotov cocktail, throw it in the direction of the police, and then scurry back for protection.
Those protesters wanted closer ties with Europe, but Vladimir Putin never wanted any of that. And he is serious. Russia already annexed Crimea back in March, and if rebel forces push further west, Russia might secure a strategically important land corridor all the way to the Black Sea. Up until a few hours ago, the US and allies had struggled to find a united voice to confront Putin directly over Ukraine.
Russia has to stop lying. The cost of inaction is unacceptable.
Today, perhaps, is a turning point. Hamish McDonald, ABC News, London.
So what do you guys think of this? This is...
What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck indeed. This worries me.
It smacks of the Cold War proxy wars where
Precisely.
They brought it in, but
it doesn't really worry me so much for myself. I know I'm not getting drafted. I'm not getting drafted anytime soon. But my nephew, he's turning 15, and he has a very huge potential of being drafted if this turns into another type.
The Iran-Afghan conflict ran for 10+ years, so if he turns 18 in 3 years, he's definitely would be within the age range of a draft if a war were to break out.
Now, did you mean Iraq, Afghan?
Oh, did I say Iran?
You did.
I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
No, well, I think that might be a little bit of your subconscious leaking out, because obviously Iran was one of the countries that was talked about needing to overthrow their government too. That's a whole different other subject too.
Yeah, let's not get sidetracked with that one.
But back to this. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us as individuals, individual American people? And what does that mean for us as a country that Russia is actively invading another country that we are supposedly supporters of? What does that mean for us?
Well, there's a lot of complex issues there. You've got the issue of our country's word, like our reputation to uphold our word. If we're part of NATO, if we put our word and say we are the United States and we sign this treaty in good faith and we will uphold the laws that we agree to uphold, and we just choose to back out of it whenever it gets hard, then our word in these situations doesn't mean anything. We can't bring to the table strong discussions or demands or even negotiate with the position of strength because we don't have the reputation on our side. So there's that aspect of it. So if we put in the treaty, those are going to be the things that drag us into it. We have to worry about people wanting to not honor our word. And that can be a big deal.
Well said. And with that, I think we'll just end it there, and we will get into our next topic for the night. UFOs, alien life. So let's get into it. There have been several times, I believe, I've seen what I would think would be a alien craft. It would have to be something so far in advance of what we know of our technology, just from what it was doing. Now, I don't know if you gentlemen have ever seen a satellite moving across the night sky.
Yeah.
And what that looks like, it looks like a star, a fairly dim star moving across the sky in a straight line. And it'll move across the entire horizon. You can follow it. It doesn't stray from that straight line. Because
and the speed is steady.
Yes, because it's a object in orbit, and it is moving at a tremendous speed. It can't make instantaneous changes in its trajectory.
No, the momentum is tremendous.
Yeah, exactly. I have witnessed what I thought was a satellite, because I've seen many of them, and it made a 90-degree turn instantly. I was following it across the sky, and it got to about the middle of the sky from the horizon on my left. I don't remember which direction I was facing. In about the middle of the sky, it made a 90-degree course correction instantly. Now, my brain tells me something moving at such a tremendous speed as to maintain an orbit that it would not be able to make that kind of, move. The momentum would be far too great for it to just suddenly go from going straight to...
No, let's get a little nerdy here. What you're actually describing is why they have inertial dampeners in Star Trek, because for anything inside there to survive, because of the sudden stop of momentum for something moving in that speed to stop and make a 90-degree turn, anything that would be in there would be pancaked against the wall as it stopped and made that shift, no matter how fast it would be. So you'd have to have some sort of force controlling and reducing the inertia artificially to slow down like that and actually function. So that definitely is not a natural phenomenon for something that fast to make a 90-degree turn. Although it could have been a drone-like device, so that I suppose you could have survived there. But now I'm getting off on a nerd tangent.
I wanted to go around now and ask anyone, has anyone else seen anything similar or maybe even different than that they would consider possibly a UFO?
I can't say that I have, honestly. It's a boring answer, but that's the truth of it. I can't say that I think that I've ever experienced anything like that.
I got a question for you guys. Have any of you ever experienced missing time? Ever?
Every night I usually miss.
Okay, smartass. I'm not talking about when you go to sleep.
Okay, well, occasionally I drink this magic fluid and
I'm not talking about when you get drunk.
Okay, if you're talking about missing time as described by alien abductee witnesses or the people have come...
I didn't specify. I just asked if any of you had
I'm asking if all I said was to clarify if you're defining missing time as they define missing time in their experiences.
I suppose that you could describe it that way. It's a similar thing I'm trying to get across.
Is this like a window of time? No, the only time in my life that has happened that I didn't deliberately do it or it wasn't a natural process were accidents. I've been, I was in a car accident and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I've also,
I unfortunately, I've had some really goofy dreams in my life. I've had dreams that involved aliens, but honestly, I've always been a kid who found stuff like that interesting. So I didn't find, when I woke up in the morning, I thought nothing of it more than it just being a weird dream.
That's a mystery.
All right. So, the last thing I wanted to say that I've seen was me and the Natrix here. We were standing outside one day, summer day, several years ago, and it was a shiny, bright day. It was hot outside. We were having a cigarette, and in the sky, and if the Natrix could talk, he would attest to this as well, that we saw a shiny, metallic-looking object appear. What I would consider, I can't speak for the Natrix.
Yeah.
And he can't speak for himself really either. A shiny metallic looking object appeared in the sky, probably about 50 degrees into the sky from where we were standing above the horizon. And it traveled to probably 70 degrees in the sky and disappeared.
Nate, confirm or deny this. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, man!
Thank you, sir. But yeah, I think this is one of the most interesting. You got people out there on the internet. They say they're abductees or they're contactees. Those are different things. Abductees are people that are taken against their will often and have experiments done on them.
I was gonna say, like, I don't completely think it's not possible for these kind of events to have happened. When you talk about the abductees, and especially the ones that claim to have been nabbed repeatedly, now this could just be us reading into our own psyche, but the scientific method is a method of logic that we've kind of like worked out, that you can almost imagine that any sentient race who's got a beat of logic running through them, they could almost arrive to a similar point. When we do biological study on animals, we'll tag them and we track the same animal to keep track, you know, to learn things about it. To be perfectly honest, when I hear these descriptions, it honestly sounds like alien zoologists coming down and checking out our, you know, lesser life forms on this planet.
And that's a very popular theory as well. That's
I guess that's your theory.
a lot of people who have mysterious quote unquote implants found in them. That's a big theory that they are tagging, so to speak.
One of the questions that I have with this is, what is the reason for the secrecy, I guess, by the alien race, if it is the case that they have contacted it? Like, when you make the zoologist example, as far as for a human to put a monitor on a seal to find out where it swims and stuff like that, and keep track of it, I would like to believe that the zoologist, in its pursuit of knowledge and information, if it had the opportunity to communicate with the seals and ask them questions and talk to them to learn about them, it would pursue that. Us being sentient and intelligent beings, why wouldn't these also presumably intelligent and sentient beings choose to make conversation and a more direct contact?
Well, I got a couple things to say to that. Potentially, they are as high above us as we are above the seal. Potentially. And maybe communication between them and us would be just as understood as it would between us and a seal. I'm just saying that's a possibility.
That makes a little bit of sense, but then what's the point of tagging the people, like in a monitoring sense or whatever it is that tag would be doing?
To track. I think just to track it. Just like we...
Like in a GPS sense of tracking?
Well, yeah, just like we track wild animals. We put a tag on them and we let them back out in the wild, and then we can use a radio transmitter to find them again when we want to.
I got a two-word statement that covers your entire question, Wally. Prime Directive. That's another. I'm gonna throw back to Star Trek.
We're going back to Star Trek again.
Yeah. Let's just say that these are actually scientists. They're here just to learn. To think about it, we already know how far away our closest star is. Traveling at light speed, we would be traveling for 4 years plus to get to our nearest star neighbor. So to travel about the galaxy requires a level of technology that breaks the laws of physics as we know it. So we would be as children to these. We would be less than children. Their interference would change our society in ways that it would shatter religions.
But that's another thing. A lot of people think they have interfered in the past. You have
create religion.
Well, and that too, and the Sumerian tablets talking about the Anunnaki, which I believe literally means they who came from the heavens or the stars, or
and that is, I guess, possible as well. Even there might even be different segments. I mean, our government doesn't always agree. Like, we have groups of people within our own species that don't necessarily agree, so there could be groups of them.
I have an interesting theory about that. So let's say there is this prime directive out there, and the Anunnaki came to Earth and they broke that. So that wouldn't really be surprising then why they themselves disappeared from the Earth and never returned. If there is a greater community out there akin to our United Nations here on Earth, maybe they discovered what the Anunnaki were doing. And
are you saying that the Anunnaki annexed Earth like so much of a Crimea, and the United Nations that is of the galaxy like came in, they're like, nah, you got to get out of there?
I'm not saying what happened. I don't know what happened there.
It's just a possible theory.
It is possible.
I'm just sorry. I'm just trying to tie it all together.
Well, when you really want to get down to it, the universe, I believe, is holographic. So things are going to repeat.
You're going to have to elaborate that statement for me.
Again, that is a totally different subject. The holographic universe. We're not getting into that right now. That's a whole different subject for a whole different show.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, hey, it's not whatever. Leave us a comment on the YouTube page if you want to hear about it.
I do think people want to hear about that, and we will get to that in another show. Thank you. And leave us a comment on this video, and leave us suggestions for topics in future shows. We'd love to hear what you think, how we did on our first show so far. We'd love to hear any other comments you have for us. All right, we're going to have a break now. Ninja, what do we got coming up in our next segment?
All right, coming up next on Red Herring Radio, we have entertainment news, top 10 movies, and upcoming new releases. We'll be talking about more world news. We'll be talking about ISIS in Syria and Iraq. And then in our final topic, we're going to be talking about world mysteries and the black-eyed children phenomenon. All that coming up next on Red Herring Radio.
I'm here to talk to you about water. Is your water rusty? Does it leave your teeth yellow, your coffee mug brown, and your shower unspeakable? My, it's like you live in my house. Well, I visited the municipality the other day, and they have a sewage treatment facility that sends clean water right to your house. Golly, that sounds expensive. You'd think it is, but I went through the trouble of bottling it up myself and bringing it to your front door. It's available in this 20-ounce container, a 1-gallon jug, or even this, that's a huge barrel. Golly, now that's convenient. Why don't you try it, Sip? That is crisp. I'm Noah Jackson telling you to buy city water today. Golly, that's refreshing.
Warning. The opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who, without payment or coercion, chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised. Coming to you from the land of 10,000 lakes, welcome back to Red Herring Radio.
Red Herring Radio is brought to you by City Water. City Water, now free of flesh-eating parasites.
Warning, the preceding statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Please do not drink city water. Welcome back to Red Herring Radio and back to our host, B-Dizzle.
Thank you very much, Ninja. So here in entertainment news, we're going to look at the top 10 movies of the week.
All right, thanks for joining us on the entertainment news for the top 10 movies of the week. We're going to start off at number 10, Into the Storm. Now, we're going to be using numbers pulled from RottenTomatoes.com. So if you want to follow along with us and check the progress as the weeks go on, we'll have a link for you here. Number 10, Into the Storm at 3.8 million. Going up to number 9, The 100-Foot Journey at 5.3 million. Number 8, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, already down to number 8 with 6.3 million. Number 7, The Giver at 6.4 million, barely edging out. It's just another race by miles here. The Expendables 3 coming in at number 6 at 6.5 million. Moving a little bit up, now we're starting to see bigger jumps. At number 5, When the Game Stands Tall. Moving into number 4, breaking into double digits at 10.8 million. Let's Be Cops, a comedy film. At 15.7 million. If I Stay at number 3, and then moving up, falling down to the number 2 spot, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at 16.7 million, and then reclaiming the number 1 spot. I do not know how often that has happened. Well, moving back into number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy at $17.2 million. That is our top 10 movies of the week.
I haven't got to see Guardians of the Galaxy yet. Have any of you seen it?
Yeah, me and a couple buddies went and saw it opening night.
And what did you think?
Well, I just gotta throw out that I'm gonna be a little bit biased. Dizzle, you know, I'm a nerd, comic book geek that grew up, so I automatically as a fanboy, a little bit of glee at all these Marvel Universe films. But if you were to take away that, the Guardians of the Galaxy is a rather obscure comic book property. It's got a lot of original characters, because one of the big criticisms of Marvel characters and DC characters is that they mostly just rip each other off. A lot of these characters are really unique, and they were created by a lot of Marvel's fringe and a little lesser known people trying to prove themselves. So it's a really original movie with some cool and unique characters. It's not you're not going in and seeing Avengers in space. You're not getting a rehash of X-Men or anything like that. It's really its own unique comedy adventure.
So let me ask you a question, Ninja. Would you say that the production value is as high as these other superhero movies that are the trend lately?
I definitely feel it holds up to the standard that Marvel Cinematic Universe has set for itself. I don't know that it's put the same budget into hiring its actors that say Avengers had in putting together an ensemble cast.
You mean Dave Bautista's not an A-lister?
You know what? I will give it to Batista. He did really, really well. He's got the physicality for an action film. And that was, to be honest, most of his part. His character on the team is like the resident strongman, so he fits into that role really well. Limited actual voice acting suited him well. I think trying to overexpose a performer like Batista, to give him a limited role was probably a good thing, but he did well in it.
Just to clear up for those who may be curious, Dave Bautista is has been involved with professional wrestling and worldwide wrestling entertainment.
Former WWE champion Dave Bautista.
Yes, there we go. Anybody else famous in the movie? That's the only character that I can think of. Who else is in it?
Zoe Saldana of Avatar fame and Star Trek.
She is beautiful, by the way.
Yes,
she is so gorgeous.
I will agree. She has an amazing eyes.
Yeah. Yep.
I
love her eyes.
She plays
and the rest of her.
Yeah, she plays Gamora. Another absolutely beautiful girl that the nerdy side of me fawns over. Karen Gillan of Doctor Who fame plays Zoe's step adoptive kidnapped sister in the film. Chris Pratt plays Star-Lord. Vin Diesel, they paid Vin Diesel a lot of money to say I am Groot a bunch of times. So yeah, there's definitely people in the movie that you'd find famous, but it's not like Robert Downey Jr. and all that. But I would definitely say that this is entertainment level. I found it to be on par with Avengers.
Give me a 1 to 10 on it.
I say I give it a solid 8.
Next, we're going to be discussing ISIS and what's going on in Syria and Iraq. And this segment is brought to you by City Water. City Water, now with less mercury.
Warning, the preceding statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Please do not feed your City Water to pregnant women.
ISIS. It is essentially a Muslim group that has decided to ignore borders of countries. They are attempting to dissolve countries into what they call the Islamic State. Essentially, they want it to be the whole world under Sharia law, and either you accept Islam or they kill you. Now, this is what's going on to a lot of people over there. They roll into a village, ISIS that is, rolls into a village, and the people are given the opportunity to either convert or die. And I don't even know if they're given the opportunity to convert all the time. There are so many stories that come out of how these people execute pretty much indiscriminately. Now, I can't say that for a fact. I'm not over there. I've never been over there. So,
yeah, how can we deduce what's propaganda and what's to be believed and what's really going on?
That's just the thing. It's it's hard to say what is propaganda and what is reality, because I think all of us sitting here know how much the media is the only use of the media is to sway our opinion on something. And the people that control the media that we receive and we watch and we take in, they have a very set agenda. So that's a fair point. I can't say for a fact that my view of what ISIS is doing is really what is happening. I can't say that for a fact.
Well, I can say if we're going to go on the assumption that ISIS is as it's presented to be, that it is the group that is following the agenda that you have laid out for us, Dizzle, that is not only an extremely arrogant stance to take, because the natural human response to control is to fight, but they must be extremely arrogant to think that they have the manpower or weaponry to do that to the world.
See, they have been making all sorts of gains over there, and it's not the exact same group. I'm sure there are individuals probably in there that are part of this group now. But Russia, look how long they fought the Afghans. It was their Vietnam, so to speak. They couldn't beat these people even with all their advanced weaponry. Now, I'm not saying that if we really wanted to, if we took our bombers and we carpet bombed the whole frickin' country,
we could make it a parking lot.
We could, and we could win that way.
That and 30 years more of advanced satellite technology has also led to gains in our ability to track.
That's right.
Yeah, that is exactly right. But if we wanted to do that, we could. I don't think we ever will, and we can't defeat these people conventionally.
You have to win on like almost an intellectual level, or a level of not wanting to fight anymore and not being in that place of fighting.
Well, I don't know if that's ever going to happen either.
Well, see, like I don't.
War is far too profitable to ever let that happen. And that's part of what is so scary about that whole group, is that they believe they have the moral
authority.
They believe they have the moral justification to lay down 100 men on the ground and shoot them all in the back while they're just laying there. They have the moral authority to take a journalist in a orange jumpsuit, for all I know, make him read a statement and then cut his head off with a knife.
Well, you must be very proud of yourself.
I personally don't understand that mode of thinking. I'm trying not to be judgmental here, because they are raised in a different part of the world with a whole different culture. But to me, violence begets violence. I've watched YouTube documentaries about ISIS. There's a very interesting one. It's a Vice documentary. They make some very good documentaries, and it's all about ISIS. And there was a ISIS soldier proclaiming how Sharia law would only cover the world through the means of the gun, I think is what he was saying, something like that. Muslim and Islamic law would only conquer the world through a gun. So he's openly saying that's how they're going to do it, and that's how they need to do it. He's probably right, because people aren't going to just lay down for that.
No, absolutely right. As history has proved time and time again, when you try to tell people what to do, if you try to take away their free will, you have to do it with force. They never willingly give it up.
And there was another part of this documentary that kind of got me. It was one of the ISIS soldiers. They were saying, God willing, that we will defeat America and we will conquer the world. And I couldn't help but like kind of chuckle to myself and saying, yeah, God is going to need to help you do that. If there is a God, he is going to have, he or it or she or whatever, that's not really the point right now. But it is going to literally have to intervene and help you do that, because you're not going to do it. You're not going to march over here, Ahmed, with your AK-47 and take over our country.
Your shitty Jeeps.
Yeah, your shitty Jeeps.
Have you seen what our cops are toting these days? They're better equipped than your entire army.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous notion they have that they think they're going to conquer the world. Nobody has ever conquered the world. And then again, we could deviate from the subject at hand and talk about the hidden controllers of the world. Again, topic for another show. So moving right along, we'll move into the next topic here. And we're going to talk about the black-eyed children phenomenon.
Yeah, why don't you fill us in on this, Dizzle? I'd never heard of this before tonight.
Yeah, I am also still pretty green on the subject.
I am fairly new to the topic as well. I just found it very compelling, very interesting. And most of the things I've heard about this are just personal accounts of it.
Well, you've got some spooky pictures so far here.
I like the Macaulay Culkin one. Let's make sure to have a link for that one. It's Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, and his eyes are blacked out. It's very.
Yeah, we all knew he didn't have a soul anyway.
Well, of course he didn't. He had to sell it to the devil to get the grosses up on that movie.
Hey, but remember Page Master?
I do remember that piece of crap too.
Saw that in theaters.
Hey, you never poop on anything that has both Whoopi Goldberg and Sean Connery. That is automatically amazing.
Me and Ninja are bumping it right now.
Okay, so these black-eyed children, apparently the story goes, it's not always the same children. Typically, they look similar. They'll have pale-looking skin. They'll typically be wearing hoodies, and they range from being 3, 4 to 16. They look like anywhere from young children to...
Are you talking about their height or their age?
Age.
Oh, I thought you were saying 3'4", like they're very short.
Sorry. Some of them are because
they're children.
Yeah, some of them appear to be children. And now there's all sorts of theories running around about these guys. Lots of people think they are extraterrestrial beings. Some people think they're demon-possessed people or demons themselves. And basically, the story goes, I'll give you a generalized account of an interaction with black-eyed child. So somebody will be at their house. They'll hear a knock on their door. As they start to approach the door, they'll get a feeling of dread or just fear. Fear will come over them. The hair will begin to raise on the back of their neck, and they'll look through the window or the peephole, and they'll see this black-eyed, or they won't even necessarily see the eyes right then. They'll see somebody standing there. They'll see somebody standing there. So they'll open the door. And typically these children ask to use the phone or to use the bathroom. For some reason, they just want to get in your house. I've read one story of somebody letting them into their house, but most of the accounts say that no, they didn't let them in. So I just found it interesting that these children are appearing at people's doorsteps, wanting to get into people's houses to use the phone. And it's something that people comment time and time again in their stories is how odd they find it that children are teenagers, would often look like teenagers or young teenagers, typically these days have their own cell phones. More often than not, they do in our society here.
I agree to that.
So they find that odd. But obviously the oddest thing about this whole phenomenon is when the children make eye contact with the person. The children apparently have jet black eyes.
Like no irises or pupils or white, it's just solid black.
Yes, I'm assuming it's like the picture that we're going to have linked of Macaulay Culkin. These are probably, if it is a real phenomena, I'm leaning more towards extraterrestrial. And if it is a real thing that is happening to people, I'm leaning towards it is a extraterrestrial race that has recently gotten to Earth.
What do you think is I mean, just to clarify on your theory, what is this extraterrestrial race doing this for then?
Well, I don't know. I guess you could have all sorts of theories, whether they're studying...
What leads you to believe extraterrestrial?
Well, I don't know. Just the fact that they're so odd, and I would lean more towards extraterrestrial, just myself personally. I would lean more towards extraterrestrial than demonic.
All I know is that if some 12-year-old black-eyed kid just showed up at 10 o'clock at night at my doorstep and creepily asked for my phone, I can't say I wouldn't fight or flight reaction, punch him in the face or something.
Well, most of the stories that you'll read and find online, I think that, yeah, you're going to have a reaction like that to something that is so foreign. You're not used to seeing any person, whether it's a black-eyed child or a full-grown man. I've never seen anybody in my life. Now, that's not to say that this all couldn't be a series of hoaxes perpetrated by some bored kids, that one kid did it the first time, they heard about it, somebody posted online, somebody read it, they're like, that's good, I'm gonna do that too. Because you can go online and buy those contact lenses that fit over your eyes that make your eyes like all sorts of things. It'll make it look like you have cat eyes or lizard eyes or whatever. So I'm not saying that's not a possibility either. I'm just saying that the chances that every person that has reported something like this being a liar.
What are the numbers on that? Any
I don't have any definitive numbers on how many people have reported this. I just know
over 30, over 40,
well over that easily.
And
it's a fairly new phenomenon, though.
What's the geographical distribution on that?
Everywhere.
In the country or the world?
The reports I've read are country, but I would be certain you could find it all over the world. I just don't see that every one of these reports being falsified. Like, yes, there are going to be a certain percentage of them that just didn't happen. There are going to be a certain percentage of them that are mistaken.
Or hoaxes or any number of things.
Yeah, but there are... now I'm going to go back to UFOs for a second. You can take all the reports of UFOs that are reported a year, and even if 1% of them are not hoaxes, not misidentified objects, are truly UFOs, that's still dozens, if not hundreds of cases. Now, to take it back to the black-eyed kids, I don't think they're seen or reported quite as much as UFOs are, but I believe I can't cite specific cases because I first heard of this subject when I was listening to Coast AM, which is a program I would recommend everybody checking out, hosted by a wonderful man named George Norrie. He kind of inspired me to want to do this program, so I just throwing that shout out to him. But anyway, so I just, I found that topic very interesting, the black-eyed kids. Not because it's creepy per se, that's not why I found it interesting, because it is very creepy to read some of the stories, because either these people are having one hell of a time writing all these fake stories, or there have been some creepy things happening to people.
You know, that's just something that I've always found fascinating, a subject in this, like, kind of mysterious... I mean, I know this isn't necessarily a ghost story, but it's in that same kind of realm of paranormal stuff, but if all of these things are happening, but they never really seem to cause a lot of direct harm physically to people, just like this fear and stress and all this other stuff, that just means there's an entire section of our universe that their entire purpose of existence seems to just be to creep us out and just like rob us of sleep, and that's the part that is just like the weird bit. What is the motivation?
Well, the reason I brought this topic to the table was because it kind of, I found it interesting that you hear reports of like Bigfoot or the Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster, all these urban legends.
Chupacabra.
Yeah, Chupacabra. All these urban legends, urban myths that date back a long time.
Quetzalcoatl.
That, I believe, is a Aztec god or a Mayan god. That's a little different.
It's a snake bird.
It's a snake bird, thank you. But this one is a more recent addition to the whole ideology. So that's why I found it interesting, because it's not often you get a new thing thrown into that category.
So you're saying is that we're just kind of making a statement that we're kind of maybe witnessing the birth of a new myth?
Something, yeah, that's why I found it interesting. I didn't have a whole lot to say about it.
I'm just gonna throw this out there as a quick thing. If people want to take it for what it is, in current what we may refer to as alien mythology, to call it what it is, perhaps, the Greys, quote unquote, have black eyes.
That's true,
and
that's
these be an adaptation of the Greys?
That is a current theory that I've read about. But yeah, that is one of the current theories, that they are an alien race. And I wasn't even necessarily specifying, like that was one of my theories, that they could be a new alien race to arrive here on the Earth. But that's a very good theory. Alien race that has been
perhaps in contact,
perhaps visiting us for a long time, has learned some new techniques and is trying some new things on us. So that's a great theory. I like it.
Just as long as it's not butt stuff.
Well, I think for you they'll make an exception.
Don't run away from your feelings.
Any other thoughts or opinions on any of the topics tonight, guys?
Yeah.
Well, just kind of like a closing opinion on the alien life in the universe is I'm like extremely hopeful that humanity as a species lives long enough to contact another sentient, intelligent race, and we have the opportunity to establish communications. I think that is... I mean, that's ultimately like the greatest dream I have for humanity. But I think that dream has to be tempered with caution. I think we all could bear Stephen Hawking's words of warning to heart, that if we look back at our own species as an example of what an intelligent species, powerful enough to become the masters of a planet, develop interstellar technology, and come find us on our little rock, what they could be and what they might think of us. So, with hope, but with caution, I dream of the future there.
Well, thank you very much, Ninja. I think that's a wonderful way to end the show tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us for our first ever podcast. I hope you join us again. Please leave us comments, like, and subscribe to our channel. And join us next week, and I will be joined again by Wally, Danger Walberg, Rick the Ninja, and the Natrix.
Yeah.
This is your host, the Dizzle. We'll see you next week on Red Herring Radio.